80s music has got to be one of the most damn hood classic music there is, that 40 years later the music from that era would still be used in movies, TV shows, and video games constantly. It has that catchy dopamine beats and instrumental composure aura that could be similarly compared to crack cocaine.
The drug so powerful it will empty the money from your pockets, make you sell the watch off your wrist, the clothes off your back, or kill your mother.
Ironically, there was a giant crack epidemic in the US during the 1980s and 90s, so it wouldn't be far from the truth that most of these artists were on that yayo. However, there is one song to this day which in my opinion is one of the most underrated hood classic masterpieces, especially since it revolves around the injustices of war and events that were happening in Latin America, which is the song Now, you might be asking, how did you wind up finding this song? And my honest response to this is,
What's your role?
I'm just a nigga with a rocket launcher.
the related searches came up and a video called If I Had a Rocket Launcher eventually wound up on my YouTube feed. It led me to this wonderful song. The title spiked my curiosity as to why does this man want a rocket launcher? Was he so enraged with inconveniences in his life or at a neighbor that he wished he had a rocket launcher to blow their asses up? No. The artist who made this song, Bruce Cockburn, has always based his music on topics including human rights, environmental issues, politics, and Christianity. While visiting Guatemalan refugee camps in Mexico, he was in utter shock from the devastating consequences of the ongoing Guatemalan Civil War and the brutal results it had on the people.
In March of this year, young army officers staged a coup and brought to power General Efrain Rios Montt, a retired army officer, and saw whole valleys empty of humanity with crops abandoned. 35,000 Indians have fled into neighboring Mexico, 9,000 of whom have arrived since Rios Montt came to power.
Once General Rios Montt came to power in Guatemala through a coup in March of 1982, he launched an operation against the country's Mayan population since they were aligned with the URNG, which was a rebel organized militia consisted of Guatemalans in poverty that went to war with the Guatemalan government.
Por favor, señores de la subversión, tomen nota de lo siguiente. Solo el ejército de Guatemala debe tener las armas. Ustedes dejen las armas.
Under Rios Montt's orders, the army annihilated over 600 villages. The armed forces rounded up their inhabitants and killed them all. Those who managed to escape were hunted from the air by helicopters. Bruce was so angry with this, he had to find a way to spread awareness for this awful conflict going on a global scale. But how will he do that? This is when the song, If I Had a Rocket Launcher, was born. The lyrics of the song vividly depict the horrors Guatemalan refugees encountered, while recounting the awful experience with Bruce, which is why the song mentions villages being destroyed and innocent people being killed. The chorus of the song expresses his feelings of anger, frustration, and helplessness in the face of such violence. The line, which is why he wanted a rocket launcher in the first place. I'd like to say, to this day, the song holds a special place in people's hearts. It kinda bothers me how this song isn't used or referenced at all, but at the same time, it's a blessing, since I wouldn't want the song to be mainstream and lose all its value and meaning. So I guess I'm alright with the fact. However, this song is still very relevant today, since similar events leading to wars are going on in other places, affecting many innocent people, and the impoverished Guatemalans are still seeking asylum as to this day.
The judges believe that the accused, Jose Efrain Rios Montt, was aware of what was taking place and he did nothing to stop it. For the reason expressed, the judges believe the actions of the accused fit the definition of genocide.
The judge said as Supreme Commander Efrain Rios Montt bore responsibility for the massacre of more than 1,700 East Shield people in 1982.
It literally took almost 40 years to arrest General Efrain Rios Montt for war crimes against the Mayans. Believe it or not, Ronald Reagan met with the general to confront him on what he did and was most likely going to have to intervene. But General Montt Rios used Speech 100 to convince Reagan that they weren't innocent people, but a rebel group of communists and Marxists that wanted to end the way of democracy. And his retrial was never completed since he died later in 2018.
Fellow citizens, last night I ordered U.S. military forces to Panama. General Manuel Noriega, an indicted drug trafficker. Last Friday, Noriega declared his military dictatorship to be in a state of war with the United States and publicly threatened the lives of Americans in Panama. The very next day, forces under his command shot and killed an unarmed American serviceman, wounded another, arrested and brutally beat a third American serviceman, and then brutally interrogated his wife, threatening her with sexual abuse. That was enough. General Noriega's reckless threats and attacks upon Americans in Panama created an imminent danger to the 35,000 American citizens in Panama. As president, I have no higher obligation than to safeguard the lives of American citizens. And that is why I directed our armed forces to protect the lives of American citizens in Panama and to bring General Noriega to justice in the United States.
During the invasion of Panama in 1989, after a former CIA agent decided to go fully Tony Montana to start a massive drug trade exporting lots of marijuana to the United States, which I'm totally sure 100% did not contribute to the crack epidemic in the United States. But he didn't just want to be a drug lord, so he rigged the elections, making himself the de facto ruler of Panama. But in order to avoid getting caught by the United States Army, in his desperate time for need, he resorted to look for Christ, and his answer was granted, and decided to hide in a place where not even the US military could touch him. The Vatican Embassy, where the US military was not allowed to go into. That's just how much power the Vatican Church had. So, what were they to do? The military acquired the most loud-ass speakers known to man, and decided to constantly play the song, you guessed it, If I Had a Rocket Launcher, and other songs like Panama and I Fought the Law, non-stop for 2 days straight. However, eventually, George H.W. Bush, the dad, asked Pope John Paul II, hey, could you not have a drug lord dictator seek refuge in your embassy? I don't think that's very Christ-like if you ask me. And the Pope said, you know, you ain't wrong. And thus, they finally arrested Noriega. Now, I hope the United States government has learned their lesson on not trusting in giving the tools and a ridiculous amount of money to foreigners to become CIA informants or agents to aid them in their conflicts just for them to turn blind eye and stab them in the back on a later date. No, I'm sure that could never happen again. Surely the United States would know how dire the consequences would be if they let that happen again, right? Right?
Más las verdes duplicados Ya que andamos, el negocio está redondo y me la paso en mi Camaro, ruleteando. El dinero no ha cambiado mi persona, sigo humilde.